Hey everyone, today we are taking a trip up to New Hampshire. Right now I'm on Highway 93 North. We're going to be getting off in about 20 miles or so, and we're going to be doing a camp video near the Cog Railway. That area has a bunch of recreational roads that are open in the summer. They're all closed now. Some of them are snowmobile trails. The one I'm going to be using, I'm not sure if it's a snowmobile trail or not. Regardless, I have a large sled I'm going to be pulling with a bunch of camping stuff. I have some pieces of plywood. My plan today is I'm going to put some pieces of plywood in the bottom of a culvert pipe, and we're going to sleep in it. Hopefully there's no snowmobiles or anything on that, but it really doesn't matter. I'm going to sleep in it regardless. I think it'll be kind of fun. We unclogged that culvert a couple times in the past couple years. One time it had 2 feet of water held up by the beavers, and ever since then they never really built back, so I don't expect there to be any kind of dam. I expect there just to be a little trickle of water. It's been extremely cold. You see, there's not that much snow on the ground, maybe half a foot. I expect there to be 2 feet at the elevation we're about to go to. You can see up in front of me, it looks like a lot of snow up in the mountains. Well, it has looked like that for over an hour of driving, and every time it looks like I'm about to go into it, not really. There's very small flurries in the air right now. See all these no parking signs all over the side of the highway? Believe it or not, people used to park for miles in the breakdown lane on this highway. Eventually the DOT put these signs up every 50 feet or so saying no parking, standing, or stopping, because they got tired of it. It's a one-lane highway right here as it goes through this tight valley, and the National Park Service, when they were asked about building bigger parking lots, they didn't want it because they don't want that many hikers on their trails because it causes more wear and tear. Just like in Maine, Mount Katahdin, you have to actually get a reservation these days if you want to climb that, unless you walk all the miles in, because you can't park there or get through the gates without a reservation these days, because they don't want the trail becoming overused. A lot of times in Maine, they will shut a trail down for a couple years so it can recover and plants can grow in and help with the erosion. Yet you see they're still going. There's no parking signs along the whole highway because people used to just park here like crazy. Right there in front of us, you can see all the snow guns going on the Mount Cannon ski slope, making the snowpack deeper. Since I first started this video, you can see we've already gained a lot of snow. There's at least a foot here now. Alright, so here's what we got in the back of the car. I bought this much larger jet sled compared to my other ones. This is the biggest one I could fit in the car. The other ones were slightly too big. Now, the way I have this set up, here's my boxes of supplies to put stuff together. Padding. There's a small piece of plywood on the bottom of this for building the shelter. There's dinner and a little bit for breakfast. I'm not really going to stop and make breakfast. I'm just going to get out of there when I'm done. That's a heavy winter jacket in case I need it. I have this blanket, which is going to be one of the doorways on the shelter. And I have another mesh net, because I don't want to use tarps, because if there's a draft in that culvert, it's going to be annoying, the crinkling sound all night. I got my little wood stove up there we're going to try putting in the culvert. And I got my hot tent just in case this idea doesn't work out. We're still going to camp down there because I'm walking like 2 miles down this closed road. And you saw last time the issues we had with the hot tent. I bought a spark arrestor and I also bought a damper, so those problems should be solved. And also someone else had a great idea. Just don't use the chimney cap so the sparks can go high in the air and cool down before they come back down. And I have a giant sheet of plywood that's 7 feet long. I'm going to put on top of this thing with bungee cords. And that's kind of good because everything here is flat with the sled. So if it was to rain, nothing's going to get in there. The plywood is in. My car is kind of small, so this is going to be over my head as I drive. See what I'm talking about? Not that big of a deal. It's not even touching me. 37 degrees out, and it is raining actually. It's not even snowing anymore. But tonight, where we're going, it's supposed to get down to 17 degrees, so it'll freeze up a bit. I'm just gonna stop up here and get something to eat for lunch. This is a pretty good lunch. Eat this and then we'll go to our location. now that we gained a little bit more elevation, we're now at 34 degrees outside. And the roads up here are a little bit snow covered. Had some frost heaves right there. That food was sitting around way too long. Those buns were hard as a rock. The sign says gate ahead. This road is closed for the winter time. So up here we will park near the gate, and I think we got about 2 miles or so to walk. These are seasonal cabins right here, and good, it looks like no one's at them. So it won't be weird leaving the car here near this gate. Oh, the gate's already blocked, even though it tells you not to block it. See that big snowbank? We're gonna try to pull in. Can we? Yeah, we can pull into this driveway, and I'm gonna back up in there where there is enough room a truck could get by. Yeah, just back up in here to where the gate is. Snowbank's not even that big. I just parked on top of the whole snowbank. Now someone can definitely get around if they ever needed to plow that road in an emergency. All right, so here is my big sheet of plywood for the culvert. And here's the sled. I think we are gonna need snowshoes. There's too much here. And because it's kind of drizzling and rainy out, it's a good thing we got this, because how are we gonna stop this thing from moving? It's slippery out. Got bungee cords. We're putting this thing on top, and then we can pull it around. I've never actually tried these snowshoes yet since I bought them. If you saw my last snowshoeing video, I had to buy a new pair because those old ones were falling apart. And the old ones were rated for a 300-pound person. So I bought the same exact kind again. All right, everyone, it's time to start pulling our load. Got to get it over that snowbank, underneath that gate, and we'll be good to go. Got a 2-mile walk. All right, so this is probably the hardest part of the whole journey, getting it up this. There's many ups and downs on this road, very curvy. I imagine further up it may be used for snowmobiles. You saw that bungee came off. Have to make holes in this toboggan to hold these bungee cords better for next time. And this thing, that piece of plywood, that is like half of our weight. That's very heavy. So that says National Forest Service. This one says road not maintained for winter travel. This gate is so short. It's because there's like over a foot of snow on the roadway. Probably like 2 feet. That sign there says White Mountain Forest Service, U.S. Department of Agriculture. So right now, it's too warm to be snowing, which I don't really like because it's gonna make me wet as I walk. But that's why I brought a heavier waterproof winter jacket. I can put that on once we get to the location. We're pulling a pretty heavy load up this hill. I'm probably hauling maybe 200 pounds or so. So that's why I wanted to get snowshoes that are rated for a 300-pound man. You want bigger snowshoes so you can compensate for the amount of weight you're pulling. And I see footprints here. Other people walked up here before our last snowfall. Yeah, this is getting heavy fast. See that back there? That's the last time we're gonna be seeing that gate. It may not look like it, but we're already like 20 feet higher than the gate. I can't wait until the first downhill section. This is the sign for the free camping sites when this road's open in the summer. But you can use the camping sites any time of year. You can use them by a snowmobile, walking up here, driving up here, even riding a horse up here. It doesn't really matter. I'm already pretty out of breath getting to this point, and I've only walked maybe 2 clicks of a mile. Down there's where the gate is, and here's a snowmobile trail. In the summer they would close that gate because they don't want snowmobiles down here. So now we're going to be walking on the snowmobile trail for most of our journey now, and this is so packed down, snowshoes aren't even necessary, so it's possible I might take them off. Now I'm hoping the snowmobile trail leaves the main road before we get to where we were going to do this, because probably not the best idea having a smokestack out right with people going by, because when you're stealth camping you don't want to be discovered in there. Even without the snowmobile trail here, I was only going to use the fireplace for like an hour in the middle of the night just to make dinner, not actually heat it, since it'll already be kind of warm in the ground and it's not a very cold day. At least it got cold enough that now it's actually starting to mix. It's more of a snow right now instead of rain. But we're going to look at the situation when we get there. We will assess it. But if the culvert I have in mind doesn't check out or doesn't seem safe doing it that close to people, I'm going to walk further, because there's a culvert that's much longer into the woods. But the problem is that one is so small that my platform won't fit in there. But also, there shouldn't be water in it. So that'd be another good thing. We just have to put something down inside the rusty pipe. Yeah, this is really easy to walk down. And it's not much of a hill, so this thing is super easy to pull now. I'm going to leave the snowshoes on because the snowshoes have cleats. I might not be able to gain enough traction myself to get this up some of the steeper parts. Be bear aware. Food storage required. And they got an old time log cabin over here. This road has a couple dozen free campsites. Here's the first one. Here's where you'd park your vehicles and you walk up there to the campsite. Some of them are very secluded. Some of them got trickling water, and other ones are right on the road. Finally, our first downhill section, and we have a bridge here with some trickling water. Boom, right into me. Right on top of the snowshoes too. So now we gotta do this a special kind of way to slow it down on a steep hill. So I'm just walking on the side of it so I can keep it steady. I got good cleats on these shoes. This is definitely not as easy as it looks. This thing weighs about 200 pounds. Listen carefully, because there is a blind corner behind me. You can hear snowmobiles coming from far away. You hear them like 5 minutes before they even show up. You can let it do that. I just wanted to guide it so it wouldn't go off the bridge if I did it from way up top. The river's almost completely frozen. Looks really nice. It's snowing heavier now. I wish it was really cold out, because I'm heating up so much on this hill. This hill is so much worse than the first. I have like a little tiny flat spot. Now it just keeps going up around that corner. And I'm only about 1/8 of the way there. Here comes more snowmobiles. All right, the hill has really let off now. It's become gradual and pretty easy to pull up. While going up the steep part, while I was huffing and puffing going up, like 20 snowmobiles went by, and that's not pleasant because they all have two-stroke engines which don't burn up all the fuel, so it stinks a lot. And it's not a good thing to be breathing in when you're huffing and puffing. All right, now we're gonna have another downhill stretch for a while where I'm gonna have to start controlling this thing again. All right, we have a little bit of a break on the downhill. Now we're to the point again where I'm really gonna have to hold it while we go down another slope. And this one's even steeper. What do you think of that noise as it's crushing the snow? I kind of like it. Oh, more snowmobiles coming. Just gonna get off to the side for a moment, and then we'll continue this. I don't think there's any more coming, but we're off to the side anyways. Don't want this thing to start moving too fast, because this thing will pull me down if I give it the opportunity. For my next trip, I'm gonna drill a couple holes in the back. This thing needs a handle on the back end so I can walk behind it in these situations. But this is the first time I've ever used one of these sleds on a road with hills this steep. This road, there's like no parts of it that are flat for long. It's either going up or down. Like right now it's pleasant. We're still going down, but it's not steep enough where this thing will move by itself. All right, we are now about halfway to the worst case scenario, the culvert, where I wouldn't be using this piece of plywood. Or at least I don't think it would fit in there because it's a little bit smaller than the one I planned on. So that's another free campsite there. I'm just taking a little break because we have a big hill right here. And just like when you're mountain climbing, that is the false top. It's just a little bump, then it goes way back up even more. Got a little trickling stream here with a 3-foot corrugated metal culvert. Pretty rusty, but not rusted through yet. Tonight, inside the culvert, whichever one of these we camp, and I'm going to camp in one of them. I'm not going to use the tent. But that tent I just brought as a precaution. My legs, I know I'm going to be getting cramps tonight. Because this entire thing is uphill. And the angle, you know, I have to be tilted way forward to be able to get enough traction to be able to pull this up the hill. All right, we just made it to the first culvert that I was going to use. You know, this is not as open as I remembered. And culvert entrance is right there. This tree recently just fell over. We'll take a better look at that in the spring because we're probably going to have to unclog this one. It looks like beavers may have helped it. The first time I ever discovered this site here, this water was almost ready to go over the road. The beavers had this whole area here flooded. Removed the log. We had a bunch of cracking ice as it went down. This was a secondary pond. Here goes the sheets of ice. Entering the culvert, sheets of ice. And I can't believe it, they never built back. It was 2 years ago when we drained this. And it's amazing they never built back because you walk down here like 100 feet, there's a massive active beaver swamp. Who knows? I might actually use this. This is less secluded. I mean, more secluded than I thought. I think we have a snowmobile coming in the distance. And definitely, as soon as it gets dark, no one would even be suspicious about tracks going down there. And it is 3 o'clock. Unfortunately, this time of year, we got like 3 hours to kill before the sun even goes down. But we could use that time to collect a little bit of firewood. I only need enough firewood just to cook my dinner. I think this piece of wood would fit in here. Yeah, we definitely have snowmobiles coming. Yeah, I want to check out this pipe. I think we're going to continue, though, and do the one that doesn't have water in it. Although water would be cool for doing dishes and stuff. One of the snowmobilers just offered to give me a pull, but it was the wrong direction. So right here, that ice may or may not be able to hold me, I'm not sure. And this pipe was the one that piece of plywood should have worked perfectly. I guess I could get everything inside it right now and start setting up, and no one would even know I'm in here other than the tracks if someone stopped to explore. And I doubt anyone going by really fast at night would even notice or think anything of the tracks coming off the snowmobile trail. All right. This is pretty steep. I might... Oh, yeah, this ice is not that thick. Darn it. Got my boot wet. All right. Looks like we're going to the next one. This is not a good place to have wet feet this far out in the middle of nowhere, but I'm not concerned. It's not going to be that cold tonight. And I got wool socks. Wool keeps you warm even when you get wet. But as soon as I get where I'm going, I'm going to take them off, let them dry, squeeze them out, hang them while I'm cooking over the fire. Yeah, just for that reason of how deep the plunge pool is, I'm not going to use this location. Maybe I'll use it some other time in the future. But we got maybe another half a mile at the most to our next spot, and we'll give that a try. That foot is absolutely freezing, but my body will heat it up quite fast. I'm going to generate so much heat going up this hill. This is one of the steeper ones we got to accomplish. All right, our secondary plan that I talked about, I just looked at the map. It's literally over this hill. We should be there in like 10 minutes. And look at this. It started snowing a lot more. That's awesome. All right, everyone. We just made it up to the next spot. This is a active beaver swamp right here. You see there are 4 culverts. Only the primary one is flowing unless it gets clogged or overwhelmed. We're going to try to camp in, I think, the second one next to the active one, so we're closer to the water. As soon as we get everything set up, we can head off into the woods and look for some debris to burn. So this is an active beaver swamp in the summertime. Yeah, it was only like a 5-minute walk up that hill. Now, I don't know how thick the ice is here. It's probably better and it can probably hold me because it was very cold. Where you saw my foot go through was not that thick because it's moving water. And we've had a couple warm days. Now these pipes hopefully are big enough for the piece of plywood, but as I remember, they're probably not. Now I gotta figure out how to get the sled down here without tipping and losing everything. Before I go down there, I want to make sure I want to do this. There's a good amount of water coming out of the primary flow. Now, walk down here with feet crooked, and I still might fall because this is steep. Trying to do it with crooked feet so I can check out the situation. If it does actually fit in there, I probably don't want to use it because it'll reduce headroom by so much. I gotta try to get this whole thing down here. And probably my tracks are gonna draw attention too. Someone might think someone fell down here or crashed down here. Wish these culverts were a little bigger. So this was kind of hard to break coming down there. I was afraid it was just going to go over me, but I was able to hold it back. Now, I just measured with the snowshoe. This piece of wood looks like it's an inch too wide to even fit in there, and it would be pretty high up where you wouldn't really want to be. It would remove all the headroom. You'd want it to be down in the bottom. So we're not going to use the plywood, but the sled, I may actually slide that whole thing in there with me. Maybe sleep in it, maybe not. We'll see how it goes. And it doesn't look like there's a lot of dead wood to burn. Whoa, I just fell so deep in the snow. You see, it's packed, but there's feet worth of snow. I need the snowshoes to go anywhere. I took the snowshoes off because I knew I wouldn't have the traction with these getting it down there. All right. I do see a bunch of dead debris right there, actually. I just got to be careful I don't flood my boots again. My boots are flooded now, but they're nice and warm. Once we get in the culvert, I'll take them off and hang up everything. This is a very small pipe. Not ideal at all. Oh, man. Was this whole thing a mistake? Maybe I should go back to that first pipe and just not light a fire tonight. Go in the other end where the water doesn't have a plunge pool. I think we might go back to that first pipe because these ones are kind of small. Try getting back out of this hole. Very deep snow. Ah! This thing is so heavy. Whoa. I can't believe I was able to do that without taking the plywood off. Whoa, I sunk so deep. All right, we're all set to head back to the other culvert pipe now, which we'll get back there fast. It's all downhill. Not really much energy to get back down there. It's snowing even heavier now. No one's gone by in a while. Looks like someone just wiped out here. That was so hard to pull that thing back up with everything intact. Can't believe that bungee cord didn't let loose with that amount of strain on it. But then again, if I took the piece of plywood off, everything inside there would fall out on that steep hill. So it's a good thing I got it up in one piece. Let's start heading back down the hill. Now, like these ones here, these would not be bad at all to sleep in because they're so small. If I was walking up here with backpacking gear, all I'd have to do is put a pad down inside there, put up 2 walls like I was going to do. I was just going to put up 2 mesh walls, one in front of me and one in back of me with a bunch of magnets. And all I would need is a little tiny propane heater. That's what we'll try next time. Just like we did in the original culvert camp, but not nearly as much stuff. And one that doesn't have any water in it. Because this platform is what most of the weight is. So I can sleep over the water and utilize the water. Most culverts have water flowing in them. It's not too often when you actually come across secondary flow pipes. All right, we're back to the first culvert. We got it open. We're gonna see how this thing fits down inside there. And hopefully we can get everything in there nice and fast. And as soon as it gets dark, we can start up a little fire in there. It's gonna take a while to get everything together. Look at all the dry firewood we got here in the swamp. Great, I don't hear any snowmobiles. Let's get everything in. This was not easy to get in here. Let me show you. It fits perfectly like I planned. Wasn't easy because I didn't factor in the crinkled culvert. Couldn't go in there. I had to smash a little bit of ice to slide it in there. Slide it through ice. That's why it was on the platform. But we're good. We're good. It looks like we're good. Let's try to break some branches out of the way. They're not. They just died. Still got a little bit of play to them. I want enough space because I'm bringing the whole sled in here. Bringing a whole sled in. Be careful I don't sink because there's a lot of snow here. Time to go around and gather a little bit of firewood. Like, I'm probably gonna go up here to get a bunch of dead branches off these trees. Until then, we're gonna be inside the pipe setting up. So here we are on the inside. Push this down carefully. It's gonna pivot. All right. That just sunk because the ice isn't very thick. But that can just sit there like that, actually. That could actually be part of our shelter. I don't see any spiders. I see frost in the ceiling, so not really a problem with spiders. Now, not as much headroom as the last culvert camp. Not as nice as the concrete one. We're here with all this excavator damage. So basically, I can sit here with my legs crossed, but I don't have great headroom. You see? Not great headroom, especially now with that hump. Not the worst, especially since I don't have to worry about spider friends. So I guess it's time now to start setting up the wood stove and stuff. They're kind of stuck in there. Alright everyone, I got this thing pretty well thought out. The walls in here are cold and frosty, but I think as soon as we run this thing, it'll get warm very fast. I'm going to take my shoe off, and I'm going to attempt to dry my socks. What I'm going to do is take some of the magnets I have, and I'm just going to stick my socks like right above the stove so the heat can just go after it. So I got the stove set up in here pretty nicely. Got a 90-degree turn. I got 4 sections of pipe. There's going to be another 90 with another 2 sections popping out the end as soon as it gets dark. And I'm going to go ahead and grab a whole bunch of branches off the petrified dead swamp trees. And those should burn very clean. And if they burn clean with no smoke, we can keep this thing running for quite a while and nobody will notice. So, got a temperature set up in here. See, these magnets work really good in a metal culvert. And you see right here, this thing is waving back and forth because of the wind. But when it's time to go to bed, I will secure it towards the bottom with magnets. I just want to be able to access at the moment all my stuff, because I still have to grab my bedding and stuff, which is out here when I'm done cooking and stuff for the night, because I don't want to get sparks and stuff and ruin my mattress, which is going to be laying down right in front of the stove. And we do have to get something out here because my food tonight, I bought these, which I believe they're raw. I think, no, they're fully cooked. That's a good thing. All I have to do is warm them up. I was under the impression they were raw, so that's good. That should give me a lot of energy. And got some ginger ale for tonight. And bought this cheesecake for tonight. This is also going to be some of my breakfast, too. And I bought a couple mushrooms that I can put in the frying pan with the sausages. I should be able to fit a couple sausages in that tiny little pan right there. And this blanket right here is going to be my other doorway down there. I'm going to have to situate it with magnets so it's not touching the pipe, but blocking the majority of the entrance. All right, I think we're doing good in here. I got some tea bags there in case I want to make tea later. I did bring a bottle of water somewhere in here. And I can just open the floor here. Open that, it pushes the toboggan back, and I have access down to the water. The water looks pretty clean. I could grab some of that and just boil it. This water is just coming off of the mountain at the moment. It's kind of cool how the sled just comes right back into place with the angle of the ice. This used to be a beaver pond, and beaver ponds are absolutely disgusting. If that was still there, I would never be drinking this water. But since there's no beaver pond, this is just coming off a mountain. If I had to, I could. Or I could just melt some of the snow, which is probably a better idea. Much cleaner this time of year. We got an egg mass right here from the spider friends. Actually, multiple egg masses. Those are all going to be baby spiders. But too cold to have any actual living spiders in here. Unless we wake one up out of hibernation when we start heating it. It's now about 4:30 in the afternoon. We have to wait 1 more hour or so for it to get dark. A camp like this would probably be better off just using a little buddy heater or something. And this stove, I really like the idea of it and the idea of the exhaust pipe. But in a situation like this where you're trying to be discreet and not make smoke, I'm thinking, is there a way I could maybe convert this thing to run on propane? Make a little burner inside there. I could probably buy a little burner and just have the hose coming out to a propane tank. That might be an idea. I think I'm going to go out and collect a little bit of firewood and see if we can make this work. I hear some snowmobiles in the distance. I thought this might be really good to burn. What do you think? This is not bark. The tree is just so dry. Let's get back in here for a minute. And it's up on top of this grass, which is an even bigger challenge. You can sink pretty deep without the snowshoes. There's many different layers of different snows out here. Like what I'm walking in now, there's a hard layer underneath me that gives every now and then. Just gonna peel a whole bunch of this dry stuff, I think. It is quickly getting dim outside. Nighttime's coming fast. I was lucky to be able to get all these extremely dry, flat pieces of wood off of those trees that are just falling apart from baking in the sun. And we got a little bit of kindling right there. And I brought some cardboard. We should have no problem getting this thing warm. And I'm going to hang my socks right above it once it gets warm enough to take off some of my stuff. My feet are a little bit cold, and that's why it's important. I need to get everything dry in here. And then we're going to try sleeping. And if it does get too cold in here for whatever reason, I might have to go out and get more firewood. It's 38 degrees here inside the culvert. It's very echoey. Woo! Notice how quiet it is now? I'm not sure if you could tell, but in that time lapse, I unclogged the culvert. So now there's nothing in the way to make rapids. So now it's pretty quiet and we can listen to what's happening throughout the night. Can barely hear the water anymore. You see how I got the pipe suspended with little metal wires here and another one down there with magnets. As soon as it gets dark, I really don't care what amount of smoke we make. If someone stops, oh well. I think the worst thing anyone would ever say is to leave. If it happened to be a park ranger or somebody on a snowmobile, I think that's the worst thing that would happen. Just tell me to leave. So I think this will work out nice. It's a very small space. Once we start a fire, it's going to get toasty in here fast, I think. And if we run the stove for a while, long enough to heat up the walls, just like when we camped in the culvert last year, once the walls and the ground behind the culvert starts to get warm, then it starts radiating heat back too, which is pretty cool. So there's always going to be a draft in here. That's why I brought a winter jacket. I'll just wear my winter jacket, get underneath the blanket I brought. It's not going to be the coldest night. My foot that got wet, it's a little bit uncomfortably cold, but that's about it. Once we get the stove going, I'm going to put my sock and my wet boot, hang it above the stove so it can drip dry a little bit with those magnets. Now that I've been sitting in here for like a half an hour waiting for it to get dark, the angle I'm sitting at, my wet boot is actually slowly getting absorbed up my pants, which is making me cold. At the right angle, I can even see steam coming off me, which isn't that great. So that's weird. On camera, my headlamp looks like it's flickering, but it's only showing up on camera. It's weird. I can just shut that off for now. I'm going to start this thing up because if I don't, I'm going to freeze to death. This is getting really cold out now. So I'm going to start this thing up. I don't care what anyone may say. I need to start making some heat and drying my clothes off. And again, once this thing gets going really good, it shouldn't be making any smoke once it starts running efficiently. Because this thing, if you remember, it works like a rocket stove. Again with the flickering, and that's just my camera flash. What causes that? On camera, it looks like it's flickering in here. It's not, though. Got to get this thing running. Get some dinner on there. Just got to get that draft going. This wood isn't the driest. Well, it is very dry. It's just, we just got to get it going. I'm hoping it goes pretty well. Hoping it drafts properly. I don't see why it wouldn't. If you look out the end, we got a good stack going back up the top. See that? Come on, catch. Oh, yes, we're finally starting to get some heat. Finally. All right, I gotta start drying out myself. Get this boot off. Get my sock off. You see all the steam coming off of my sock? I'm gonna squeeze it out as much as I can before I hang it up. Got a lot of water in that sock. In a few minutes, once it gets warm in here, I want to peek outside and see how much smoke we're actually making. Because last time I used this stove, it was burning so clean, I could see smoke going up the chimney, but somehow it was being burned off because the pipe was glowing red. Like a catalytic converter, I guess. Time to hang my sock up right above the stovepipe. We're already slightly rising in temperature. Now, as far as my boot, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. The magnets aren't powerful enough, and I don't have enough of them. I might just put my boot right here. I think that'll work. As long as it's not touching, hopefully it can drip out, and now it can heat up in that position. The fire is burning pretty good. This stuff is burning fast, though. It's getting warm in here fast. That it won't even be a problem not having being barefoot in here. All right, the smoke is completely gone. What you're seeing now on camera is steam, like quite literally. Look down. It's steam coming off of my damp clothes. It's steam coming off of me. It's just like everybody thought it was smoke in my camp video about camping under the toppled trees. People were like, how could you be in that without suffocating? No, it's steam. Just like everything you see now, you see how it looks like there's a little bit of haze in the air? It's all steam. None of this is smoke anymore. Completely steam. That little haze you see in the air, it's all steam. The floor in here is damp. Lots of things are damp. I'm damp, and it's all evaporating. That's a great example. Look at me. I'm steaming like crazy because I'm slightly damp. But these clothes will dry off pretty fast, sitting around the fire. Check it out. Got a little poker stick. Just got to keep this thing going. We can cook in a few minutes, start cooking. Got my sock right above the pipe. Hopefully that'll dry fast, especially there's a lot of heat by the ceiling. See the ceiling? The ceiling's wet because we just melted all the frost. I want to reach the camera outside. I want to see if we are actually making any smoke. Another magnet. Yep. Oh, it's still snowing out. Any smoke up there? Wow, are we seriously not making any smoke? I gotta review this footage. If so, we are very discreet out here. I'm sorry, but throughout this video, you're probably gonna see the steam on the screen. There's nothing I can do about this when I'm recording in a situation like this. I gotta say, this stove is awesome because no matter how smoky it appears to be inside the firebox, just like last time I used it, oh, it's actually, there is no smoke. Everything burning's not producing smoke, but last time, everything going up the pipe, it wasn't coming out the pipe because when I shut my lights off, this part was actually glowing a little bit. And I believe that was helping burn up the extra smoke, but this is good. If someone goes by, they'll never know we're in here unless they see a faint glow from our lights once it gets pitch dark out. I went and removed that clog. Now that it's quiet, if we hear something like a snowmobile coming, just shut the light off until it goes by. Oh, my boot keeps touching this pipe. I'm going to end up ruining it. Yeah, I definitely just melted part of my boot. Yeah, see it burning? A little bit of rubber on the pipe. Well, it didn't go through. That's okay, though. Boot's not dripping anymore, so I put it upright. Now, as it heats up, the water can just evaporate out the top. Has a lot of trouble evaporating the other way. That was more just for it to drip dry. Yep, I think by the time we burn through this firewood and by the time we're done eating, my sock and this, I think this will all be dry. And hopefully just me sitting around in here, you see all the steam. I think I'm going to dry off myself pretty good. And this leg didn't actually get wet. What you're seeing steaming there is just from me sitting on the damp floor because I tracked in a good amount of snow and stuff. When I put the piece of plywood in here, I made sure the wetter side was down, which is the one that was getting rained and snowed on my whole walk in here. This is actually looks really cool. This came out better than I thought. All right, we're burning really hot in here now. Doing good. If I button that back up, we'll definitely get hotter in here. As of now, we are at about 45 degrees, close to it. It's not even cold in here to me anymore, even not having shoes on. This is gonna dry fast. That thing right there, it is so hot. You know, I gotta show you. See that? It burned the edge of my skin just touching it that fast. But it doesn't even hurt, you know? I will shed that off before I even go to sleep, if you know what I mean by that. It's so superficial, that burn. But the point is, I wanted to show you how hot it is. It can burn you in a split second if you touch any of this stuff. So I'm going to get these into a frying pan now. I'm hoping these produce enough grease because I didn't bring butter. And I want something to be able to cook these mushrooms in. I'm just going to put them in there with 2 of these for now. I'll have the other 2 if I'm still hungry, which I most likely will be. Cheesecake, I can have a lot of that if for a snack or for breakfast. I actually forgot a fork, but I did bring my knife. That's kind of dangerous. It was already open because when I'm sitting in here, you know, it can just push this button in here. I've had that knife for a while. Bought that like 5 years ago on Amazon. It's been through a lot, but it works good. I just realized that my other leg was actually damp too, just because snow had got in my boots when I sunk down real deep. Good thing I didn't let it fully melt. So now I have both my socks up there. Nothing's touching the pipe, but it's very hot around them. And both of my boots can evaporate out the tops for a while. It's comfortable enough in here that I have no shoes on, but my feet don't really feel cold, just being near the fire. Just got to make sure it keeps going. This fire requires constant action or it will go out because I could load the firebox fully and make it real hot in here. But I have a limited amount of wood in here to burn for now, or I have to go back outside and I don't want to. I'm hoping I can dry everything and make dinner, and that'll be the end of it. I'm just feeding it really slowly just to keep heat in here without wasting it. Now, people tried to tell me, a couple of them in the comments, that the drawer here is how you adjust the inside, the flame. Maybe with whatever stove you have, the ash pan acts as a damper, but as you can see by the flame, that does nothing. This thing has a air intake on the back of it that is totally separate from the drawer. There's an air intake on the back of the stove, if you see that vent. That vent has nothing to do with the drawer. It goes in, and there's like a little ductwork, and the ductwork goes into the top of the stove, and it distributes it through those tiny little holes. You see what I mean? You see where it goes down to the back, and it comes out of those little holes. The fresh air intake. So, I went on this company's page, because I bought this thing on Amazon. It's like a $90 stove, and I don't know why the company doesn't include the damper pipe, but it's on their page, so see, you can control the flame with that now. That's the slowest it can burn. You see the flames are getting smaller, it might go out. Oh, now it's coming out of here because there's no gasket, so we can't have it that closed. Now it's going okay. So I bought that damper pipe. I also bought these 90s, which don't come with it. I also bought a spark arrestor for the next time we use it in a tent, so we don't destroy it with sparks. Someone had a great idea. Just don't use the chimney cap at all, and the sparks will go high in the sky, and they'll be cold by the time they come back down. That's a good idea. I think this stove, they're ruining many people's tents by not telling them that. They need to buy the arrestor on their page too. Alright, so I got 2 of these into my little frying pan. And here I bought some mushrooms. I just wanted something with it. Mushrooms are nice and healthy, and I like them. I bought these at the store because they didn't have an actual box of them small enough. I'm actually going to cut these up with my knife so I can put them in little pieces all between there. It is so quiet out here right now. We haven't seen a snowmobile or heard a snowmobile go by in almost 2 hours, and after that, and before that, we went like a half an hour without hearing one. And we're starting to get later into the night. It's now like 6 o'clock. We're not gonna hear much of anything going on now. I think most people who were out on snowmobiles are just about done for the night. That's why I purposely wanted to come camping in a place like this on a weekday, because most people are probably working tomorrow. If I did this on like a Saturday, I know that there would be a lot more people active at night, because snowmobiles have headlights. All you gotta do is wear a good jacket. There's no reason you can't be out here doing it at night. I'm kind of sad that I did not remember to bring a fork. So I'm gonna have to wait for this to cool and just eat with my fingers and then wash my hands off in the stream underneath me. Now, I don't have soap or anything, but I always just go ahead and I actually bought a couple of mushrooms too many. But you just take silt or mud from the stream, sand, you just grind it back and forth. It'll take grease, all kinds of stuff off of your hands. It just binds to it. And soap doesn't really work great anyways when it's cold out using cold water. You need heat to actually get the soap off, or you'll be stuck in that situation too. Later on tonight, I'm going to have these other two, and then I'm going to burn the wrapper because I don't need something like a raccoon or a coyote smelling it and trying to come in here. I doubt they would mess with me as soon as I make a noise, or just my smell being a human, they probably wouldn't mess with me in the first place. But if this was summertime, you certainly want to burn all your garbage because a bear will come by. You don't want a bear. Not the worst looking thing. Oh. Three snowmobiles. Didn't even hear them coming, and they're going by so fast they didn't even notice me either. I don't think we're producing any smoke at all anyways. Yeah, we're burning pretty clean. Ooh, I already hear that sizzling. I wish I had like a little piece of aluminum foil to like hold the steam in. That would really cook the mushrooms. I don't think I have anything on me that I could use for that. No, I don't. This was a great idea, finding an old swamp tree that you can just literally flake pieces of wood off it. We'll see how this turns out. I'll stir it a few times. You can see the mushrooms are now shriveling up a little bit as they're cooking. Look at that, the bottom of the sausage is all becoming brown and nice looking. So this doesn't burn. I didn't realize I already took the cover off and I just spilled more water on myself. I'm gonna add a little bit of water in there. Hopefully that'll stop it from sticking, and that steam will help cook the mushrooms that aren't touching the bottom since I don't have a cover. And by the way, my socks are almost completely dry already. All right, we're cooking pretty good in here. I got to add more water because it all evaporated. Let that go for a little while longer now. That'll heat back up very fast. Look at the mushrooms. Look how small they shrunk. We barely have anything in there to eat. No, but it's comfy. You see that? I covered up that big gap right there. Just a piece of cardboard with a clamp. Yeah, my socks, they feel dry already. But I'm just going to leave them there until I'm ready to set up my bed, because my feet aren't getting cold. And my boots probably still have a lot more to do. Dripping is occurring here. See all the condensation because it's very cold on the other side of the ground. Same thing that happens to a cold drink on a hot day. This culvert is sweating like crazy, and where it's dipped, it drips. But everywhere else where it's not misshapen, the drips just dribble down the wall and away from yourself unless you lean against the wall like I am. So right now we are at about 48 degrees, and we're just going to keep climbing as the walls in here get warmer. And as soon as we have the pot after dinner time, I'm going to scoop some water from the stream, purify it to fill up my water bottle once again. I can also, if I think it's required, keep purifying water until we get that thing full again, and we can make some tea. All right, so I let these things cook up here for a while. Now that this water's just about evaporated, I'm going to let it evaporate a little more. Then I'm going to eat them. They look pretty good. Those are definitely cooked. My socks are completely dry. My boots, I'm sure, aren't. But my pants, they're a lot drier than they were. And sitting around this fire for another couple hours, it'll get there. And I keep crossing my legs the other way, you know. So now this is up. So yeah, you can see the steam just coming off my legs. See that? My legs are steaming like crazy. That's not my breath, it's my legs. Because being near the fire, it's throwing heat and it's evaporating it off me. The floor should be dry pretty soon. This is working out good. I just threw a little more wood in there just to give this thing a big blast of heat. And see this? It's venting perfectly. See that? All the exhaust is going up the pipe and right outside. Zero exhaust is coming in here, despite the pipe being set up like that. It's because all you need is, at the very end of the pipe, an elbow, and it goes up a couple of feet. And that's making it draft perfectly. And we're also getting pretty warm in here. We finally hit the 50-degree mark. September 15th, 2021. This thing was made only a couple months before I used it the first time. This is the same exact floor I used in my first culvert camp, except I removed the end caps that I made out of plywood. Remember my first structure, you know? But that's not very easy to assemble when you're out in a place like this. So I just brought a singular piece, and that's why I used the curtains at the ends to stop heat from escaping, stop it from being extremely drafty. So yeah, we did that first camp in December of 2021, and now it's early March of 2023. Same exact piece of wood, made in Canada with imported materials. Time to get this thing off the stove without burning myself too badly. Just gonna, it's not that hot. I can touch it for a few seconds to get it down to the floor. So there's dinner. Not the worst looking thing. Wish I brought like some sort of seasoning for those mushrooms. Usually I don't even use seasoning other than pepper for mushrooms. Usually I cook it in butter or something that gives it a lot of flavor. That's why I cooked it with the sausages. I'm hoping it gave the mushrooms some sort of flavor. Let those cool down for like 5 minutes. Use my knife. And I can just poke at stuff like a fork and eat it like that. There's a weird hair on the end of the knife. Or a fiber from the wood, I'm not sure. This smells so good now that I'm cutting into it. Smells amazing. Can't forget about the stove. I gotta make sure I keep feeding it some good wood. All right, everyone, it's time to try out some food. See how these sausages are. Looks pretty good. There's so much seasoning in these sausages already. I think this is going to be awesome. See how these taste. I already had one piece of the sausage. I want to try the mushroom. Good, and the mushroom actually got a lot of flavor from the sausage like I wanted it to. Those mushrooms really shrunk when they cooked. I love these sausages. That was like a little explosion in there. That scared me. See that? Look at that thing flapping. There's such a big draft trying to come in here now. I definitely got to get more magnets. If it gets worse, I might steal the magnets off of this stuff here. 52 degrees, that's the warmest we've seen in here all night. There we go. It just needed a little bit of blowing at. Got a little poof of smoke in here when I blew at it. That'll clear pretty fast. I think I'm going to cut myself a little piece of cheesecake while I'm waiting. I got to clean this thing off. It's still got grease on it from the food there, but I'm going to be using it once again. I'm going to cut out a piece of this. This is also going to be my breakfast, but I just want a little bit of it now. Time to try out the cheesecake, see how this stuff is. I love cheesecake. I'm so glad that I decided not to buy just one slice. That's already starting to boil again. We'll have the other two sausages in not too long. All right, everyone, so it's time to open the floor up a little bit. Once I get my bedding in, this won't be flapping around as much because I'll have magnets on the bottom that'll really stretch it out. Just gotta get under there. There we go. I'm pushing the toboggan. That's what that is. See, the water's not really moving that fast. And the reason is, further down right after this culvert, there is actually a beaver dam. That's what's making it back up to this point. So, I don't have any soap or anything. And yeah, it looks like we do have a little bit of silt down there that we can use as a scrub. So here's what we do. Cold water never wants to get grease off. Thankfully, because of the beavers causing it to back up, there's not much, but I'm reaching around trying to get silt. You want silt. Because silt, especially sand, it binds with the grease. You can use it to scrub things that you may have burnt onto the pan. Just go around. Sand works the best. And now the pan is just about clean. Now that I stirred up the water, I'm going to leave this open just for a couple minutes for it can flush it out. Then I'm going to grab some water from here and make some tea. And then, just to pass some time, I'm going to keep boiling water so I can refill my water bottles. Because I assumed that I was going to have water, and I already drank this. I have ginger ale, and I have half a water bottle. That's all I got for water. That's why I brought a bunch of tea bags. I planned on having tea all night in here. Yeah, that water's already clean. Let's just grab a little bit. Like that. Take a look at it. Nothing's floating around in it. Let's go put it on the stove. For now, I'm going to close this up because there's a large draft coming out of here. Just making sure I didn't knock anything into the water. All right, everyone, check this out. The temperature in here was 55. That's what it was saying. But now that I have gone ahead and moved it level with my head, you know, it was a little too low. You usually want to measure like where your face is. Now it's almost up to 60 degrees in here. Doing pretty well. All right, so I think it's time to take the tea off the stove. It's been boiling for a while now. That handle's hot. I gotta do this fast. Ouch. Let that cool down for a few minutes and I'll drink that. That is mint tea. Doesn't say anything on there, so I have no idea what brand that was without the box. As soon as I drink that, I'm gonna make another cup and another cup. Stove is working very well in here today. Very steamy. Really steamy. So, it's actually pretty spacious in here once I get the bed set up. You see all the rust on the culvert? It's rusty on the bottom, but still galvanized on the top because where we are right now, we're right next to a mountain, and I think every spring thaw or big rainstorm, this is a kind of area where, you know, sort of like a flash floods happens whenever there's a warm day after the spring thaw or whatever. Basically, the storm surge drags down a bunch of rocks, sand, and other stuff that's mixed in with the water, and it grinds everything off like sandpaper. And that's why it's like that on the bottom. We are being very efficient with wood. I've had this thing going for 4 hours. And look how much we got left. I don't even think we used half yet. You see? Running it slow and not having a full firebox, it's working very well as far as being efficient on what it's burning. You just have to keep touching it quite often. Now I got more tea up here. That'll be done not too long. Now this really does help too. You can turn that down and don't do what I did. Make sure I forgot to reopen it. If you don't reopen it and you open the door, the whole culvert pipe becomes very smoky. I also realized as far as our water supply down here, it's going by pretty fast, bringing us fresh water, but I smashed the ice in here with the plywood because of the culvert damage by the excavator. this piece of plywood had to be put in here crooked, which means I scraped up all the ice. If we look down inside here, that's the sled, but the sled is basically sitting on ice, and I guess the sled is also part of the blockage. What that means is the water is circulating, but anything on the top, such as the oils from when I cleaned off my pan and when I spit my toothpaste in there, it kind of swirls for a while. Unless you really agitate it with your hands, then it can get swept away. So that's what I had to do. I kind of like using the red setting on my headlamp. Looks kind of cool in here. Also, using red, you're far less likely anyone would see you from the outside. Doesn't show up as much. That's why a lot of times criminals use red flashlights. By the way, just the heat of the stove, those socks, they were pretty dry after an hour. It's been 4 hours. Bone dry, my socks. I recently put my gloves here, already dry. Being this close to the stove, these boots, they're pretty hot. And as a result, it evaporated all the water, came right out through the top. Both of them. The one that was very wet, I took out the insole, which is already completely dry. Just me sitting in here, my pants, that are a little bit damp on the bottom. That's because I'm sitting down. That's why you keep seeing me shifting around. But I think by the time we go to bed, my pants will be completely dry too, and I'll be happy. I have enough wood in here that I'm probably going to keep going for like another 3 hours. And that'll probably get us to midnight. Then I will put my bed down and go to sleep. And as soon as I get up, I'm going to dismantle all this. I'm not going to make another fire. I'll just have my breakfast, which is that cheesecake. There's still almost half of it left. Also, check this out. The whole ceiling of the culvert is dry now. At least near the stove. I can't believe it. It's been like probably over 3 hours since the snowmobile went by. Pretty surprising. I thought we'd see a couple. Or hear a couple, I should say. Now, I have no way of knowing if this is smoking outside, or how badly, or if it would be noticed, or if someone would smell it. If someone smelled it, they're not going to go investigating. People camp outside here all the time. But it's just a weird spot to be doing it. Take a look at that pipe. It looks like that really, purplish kitchenware. You know what I mean? Or silverware. I got some of it that looks like that. The metal turns different colors based on the temperature. It's basically ruining the temper. It started as looking like chrome, then it went over to looking like gold, and now it looks like this. Alright, second cup of tea is done. That's pretty hot, so gotta do it fast. Don't have a pot holder. 1, 2, 3. Ouch. Couldn't let it drop. That'll be done in like 5 minutes. It'll be cool enough. Then I'm gonna scoop up, I think, 1 more cup before I close this whole thing down. And I learned with these tea bags, I don't know if that's biodegradable or not. Probably is, I'm not sure. I just squeeze it out a little bit, and I just put the other one in the entrance of the fireplace. It dried out and just burned away. I just heard something outside. It's so muffled being inside the culvert. I think something just went over us, but it wasn't very loud. Maybe we just can't hear the snowmobiles because it's so muffled in here. It's possible. I mentioned earlier that people said to use this as a damper. This cannot regulate it, but it can add more air. The problem I was having in my last camp was overheating, and there's no way to control the air intake on the back other than... All right, we just got another pan of water on there to start boiling. This wood works great from the swamp. This is just great. This is going nice. We are being so efficient feeding this thing so slowly, and it's keeping it at a pretty constant temperature. The wind basically went away now that it's getting late, and we've been sitting at about 65 degrees for the longest time. It's just very steady now, and it's steadily climbing, and I think that's because the walls are starting to get hot. Like, the ceiling here is not cold anymore. It's pleasant. I can keep my hand on it forever. It's not going to freeze me. Here, not even here. Nowhere in the shelter is really that cold. Parts of it still are covered in condensation, but nothing's really cold anymore. So I bet after running this until like midnight, because right now it's like, what is the exact time? 8:51. By the time we get to midnight and we're burn through this and I go to sleep, these walls are going to start pushing the heat back out. So it's going to stay fairly warm in here, even though outside tonight the low is supposed to be 17. Outside, I'm sure it's down well into the 20s now. But in the culvert, it's pretty peaceful. This would be a great shelter for an emergency, you know? If you have this little stove, you could stay out here for quite a while, as long as you have... This minimal amount of wood is lasting a long time. Now, if I had wood to waste and I could feed this thing like 10 times as much, I definitely could get it up to like 100 degrees in here if I had the wood to do so. I could, but that's a lot of work when there's snow on the ground, collecting wood. Although I could, I even brought a saw. It's in the sled. I could get bigger stuff, and that would create more heat. See the ice right there? That was the ice line. There was about a half an inch of ice across this water when I first came in here that I had to break. It was frozen all the way through the pipe. Pretty nice. Shelter like this is awesome. That hole is good for cleaning dishes. That hole is good for getting clean water out of. And that hole is also good for using the bathroom. I'm not using the bathroom in here through that hole. I'm saving it in bottles just because I know somebody would complain if I'm dumping it down there, even though it's heading into a beaver pond. And do you know how gross a beaver pond is? Number 2, I would never even consider doing in a shelter like this. Number 1 is not even a problem. Beaver ponds are disgusting, unlike a normal pond or a lake, because a beaver pond... bacteria and stuff really grows in there. It's a perfect environment for it. There's rotting wood everywhere, methane bubbles everywhere. It's just a disgusting place. There's a lot of bacteria in beaver ponds. That is so cool. Look at the flames in the back of the stove there. Look how it's stretching along the wall until it gets over to the flue pipe. When you see flames going up inside the pipe like that, it means you're wasting heat. Turn the damper a little bit, and that'll make the flame not go up there. It's still going up there. Shut the damper more, and you see it's still going up there, but we slowed it down a whole bunch. With this kind of stove, you can't turn it off that much because there's no gasket around the door. All right, good. That's about the maximum we can shut it. This is all wet because I didn't bring this in here. I just reached out the door and grabbed it. It was part of the clog. Now this is definitely going to smoke, but it will burn with other stuff. As you guys see, I'm getting pretty organized with my wood. See this? I just grabbed a few pieces from outside. Look, there's a good amount more right next to my snowshoes. I don't even have to leave. I can just reach out there and grab it. Also, the moon seems to be pretty bright. When I shut the lights off, you can see a glow out there. See, I got a bunch of sticks that I just broke up so they could fit into the stove. Right here's a bunch of really dry slats. And this is like a bunch of debris that I'm going to feed in there right now. Also, for the morning time, it's right back here. See that white thing right there? That's a spider egg mass that I don't want to kill. It was attached to one of the slats of wood. And tomorrow morning, hopefully I don't forget, I want to bring that thing outside and leave it in a tree or something where it won't get killed. Now, I'm gonna make one more batch of tea, but first, I got some water right here that I just boiled. Let that cool down a little bit. I'm gonna pour it into the water bottle. That frying pan should almost fill this thing back up. I can keep my finger in it. Despite it steaming, that's really not that hot. So I'm going to put it into the water bottle now. Very carefully. I'm probably going to spill a little. It's not easy to pour out of a frying pan. I spilled a little bit of it, but you see, we almost filled it up completely. It would have been filled completely if I didn't spill that tiny bit. But it's very minimal what I spilled. Fill it back up and make some tea. A little problem I'm having with the stove right now is the burner cap kind of warped from the heat, so smoke sometimes comes out it. Let's go take a little look outside. I thought I saw it maybe snowing a little bit. A lot of excavator damage. Got my snowshoes. There's the pipe coming up. Yeah, it's definitely snowing out. Can you see the top of the pipe? Are we burning clean? No, we are not. That's definitely smoking. If someone goes by, they're going to see that. Thankfully, there hasn't been a snowmobile in hours. And we only have about maximum 2 more hours worth of fuel. We are doing fantastic as far as efficiency. We've been keeping this entire enclosure at a constant 65 degrees. And we started the fire at 5. It is now 10:30. That little amount of wood, and we still have like a quarter of it left. It went almost 6 hours now. So we got 8 hours. Imagine that out of the amount of wood in here. If I stacked this whole spot, we'd have like a day worth of it. And after I set this up, the sled is just about empty. If that whole sled was full of wood up to the brim, you could stay in here for like a week. It's now 11 o'clock, and I'm probably gonna stay up until around midnight before I decide to go to sleep. It's so relaxing just sitting here, looking at the fire. I think my tea is ready. It's burning very hot in there now. I keep hearing weird noises, but that's just what little trickling streams do. Every now and then, there's a change in the current, or a piece of ice breaks loose and makes a loud bang. We are no longer maintaining 65. We've just entered the upper 50s. That's because temperatures outside are really plunging. Just put that off to the side to cool for a little while. The tea bag I put in the entrance of the fireplace, it'll dry out and eventually combust. Now everything in the fireplace is down to embers. If I was going to touch this, I would roll my bed up so to avoid getting any sparks. But I just opened it for a moment so I can throw a couple sticks in there. All those sticks, they're a little damp. After like 5 minutes, they'll burst into flames. Yeah, this stove is showing it's very efficient when you run it like this with barely anything in it. I've been peeing so much because I've been drinking a lot. So far, I've probably had like 8 cups of tea, and I'm having another before bed because I won't be able to have it in the morning. Right now, I still got firewood, and, you know, I estimated I'd probably run out by midnight. I'm running this thing so efficiently right now. Might even go to 2 a.m., but I'm not going to be up that long. At midnight, that's when I try to get some sleep. Gotta do some stretching and lay down. I'm finally getting those cramps. I knew I was gonna get them. I can't sit with my legs crossed anymore. I've been sitting like that in here for probably 6 hours or so. Yeah, I am moving around occasionally, but the better part of 6 hours, I've been just sitting in here with my legs crossed. Starting to get a little sore. So we burned all the sticks. We still have a few of those slats. And what you see there, it doesn't look like much, but that's over an hour of firewood. That's how efficiently we're burning. And it has been maintaining 60 degrees despite it being very cold outside. The wind is almost non-existent. Every now and then we'll get a big gust, but it's calmed down pretty well. And I also think I'm allergic to something in here that I'm sitting in. I don't know what it is, but it might just be the fine powder. Like every time I stir this up, a little bit of soot does get in the air, and I think I'm sitting in it. It might be allergic to it because I'm very itchy. All right, everyone. So it's now 12:30 in the morning, and we have probably, if I really wanted, another hour and a half of firewood. But I'm going to throw it all in there right now, and I'm going to get to sleep. I'm going to put on my winter jacket, and I'm going to get under the blanket because I know it's going to get cold in here pretty quickly. As soon as this thing burns out, and I expected this thing to become completely cold within 2 hours. And I'm hoping I can get some sleep. Hopefully that tea didn't have caffeine in it. Hopefully the water will help me sleep. Hopefully the strenuous pulling all this weight up here will help me sleep today. So here we go. I'm gonna load the firebox up one last time with everything we got left. Oh no, an ember went on the bed. But I got it fast. Didn't melt anything. It's a good thing that this mattress isn't made out of plastic like most things. It's pretty old, that's why. So here we got a big handful of wood. Throw it on in there. Ouch. All this stuff we got almost doesn't fit. Got a couple more pieces to get in there. Shut the damper a little bit. I actually forgot a pillow tonight, so I'm gonna use my other jacket as a pillow. It's now 2 a.m. It's been about 2 hours since I last put wood in here, and it's still warm to the touch. Something in there is still cooking. Good morning, everyone. So I think I got a few hours of sleep. See outside? It's light out now. It's about 6:30 in the morning. I think I slept, even though I was constantly up every hour or so. The only reason I was up every hour or so is because there was constant noises in here keeping me up. It's very still out right now. There's no wind, but when there was the slightest breeze, my sled down there is in the water, and it kept bumping against the walls, making noises. Even in the middle of the night, if you were able to see in the time lapse, I pushed it, gave it a big shove up onto the ice. Somehow it still managed to keep making noises. Hasn't done that in hours. But a newer problem came on towards the end of my sleep. My toes started freezing, so I had put hand warmers in there, but for some reason, hand warmers don't seem to work when they're in boots because they need oxygen to work properly. When you're walking around, it manages to work somehow. But it never got below 40 degrees in here. This shelter, even without the heat, maintained 40 degrees despite outside getting down into the teens for temperature. So we're about to emerge. I didn't hear anything all night. I don't think a snowmobile has gone by since like 8 o'clock last night. I'm going to have the rest of this cake for energy. Then I'm going to show you what this cool looking pipe looks like from the outside. Then we're going to start dismantling everything. So this curtain down here unintentionally went in the water and it's really crunchy and frozen. I'll deal with this later. This thing's all wet. I'm gonna have to wash this when I get home and dry everything else off. I'm just gonna throw it into the sled as is. That's why this thing stopped making noise. It actually froze. I'm actually getting cold now that I'm taking things down. I need to start really working if I want to get my blood pumping again. I'll organize all this stuff a little bit better later on. I'm going to need those gloves. Now I got to take down all the magnets around the door. The water is definitely flowing less. Remember, yesterday got above freezing, so there was a bit of melt. And I think when it got really cold last night, the water definitely slowed down. Throw that into the sled. I just lit that little piece of cardboard on fire because I want to know what it looks like outside when it's smoking. Alright, time to go out. You heard that cracking right there? The trickling water caused the buildup of ice. Ooh, it's actually snowing out. It's so cold that the snowflakes are so tiny. Well, that's kind of cool. My little smokestack sticking out of the culvert with my snowshoes right there. Yeah, it's much colder outside. Got a little pretty sunrise. Yeah, last night, since I came in here, look, it snowed enough. It covered up my tracks pretty well. Alrighty, until my body gets moving. Especially pulling that sled, that'll do it. just a few minutes down the road, I'll get my blood pumping real well. Going back inside now to clean up the stovepipe. It's just about stopped smoking. I think this system looks pretty cool, running a pipe out of here. I didn't think this was gonna work as good as I thought. Cold. I'm so happy that I preheated these pipes with the cardboard, because it would be so bad touching these things. Before I put the stove pipes in the stove, I gotta go outside and dump the stove out. Pulling out the ash drawer. Now this can be sometimes tedious to get these to fit in the stove properly. Ever since the stove warped. You saw yesterday I had to pull the first one out with pliers, they were so tight. It can never go smooth and it's so cold, I might just say I'll do it later and put the last one in when I get home. Got it! Poker stick. And the rest of the parts don't go to this, so they go in the sled separately. I think I gotta get a screwdriver and tighten this, all the legs are loose. Taking your power bank away. I want this water bottle on top for my way back. I will straighten all that out when I get outside, right before I put the piece of wood on top of it. Oh, I forgot! We have a second piece of wood. This is supposed to go in the bottom of the sled. Time to pull it up. Nice and easy. These are kind of frozen. I hope I can get them on correctly. Ouch, cramping. Ow, cramps. All right, it looks like we got them on. That was a little challenging with all the ice all over them. All right, let's see how hard it is to get this up the hill. Everything we brought is cleaned up. Coming up the hill, and not a single snowmobile track since it snowed overnight. We got maybe like a half an inch coating or so. No snowmobiles. You look over here on the other side, you see where my foot went through the ice. It froze back up. It's still pretty early, it's only 7. We might be able to get out of here without even seeing a snowmobile. Still very early. All right, I'll see you at the car. All right, we're leaving right now, and I noticed something walked here last night. Maybe a fox, I'm thinking. Tracks are too small to be a coyote unless it's really small. All right, we have just came to the interchange where I'm parked right down there by the gate. This is where there's like 2 feet of snow. Definitely need snowshoes here. The entire 2-mile walk, those same fox tracks or coyote tracks, they're going exactly where I'm going. They didn't even follow the trail. It makes sense that they're traveling on the road because it's packed. They'll sink so deep if they walk to the sides. That's why animals like to walk in the road in the winter. It's just easier to walk through. But suddenly goes, he's just sticking with the road. He's not going with the snowmobile trail. So I learned, yesterday was mostly walking uphill. It was pretty struggling, but today was kind of a pain in the butt, slowing this heavy thing down, going down the hills. So I'm going to drill holes. I want to put a handle that regularly drags in the back so I can quickly go behind and use that to slow it down on hills. Because that was kind of a pain in the butt being able to steer it going down. Also, a couple of the bungee cords, anytime I'd bump it, that piece of plywood, the bungee cords would snap off. I'm going to drill a hole every couple inches around the entire top of the sled so I can easily attach bungee cords without them slipping. Because I plan on doing this, hopefully, at least one more time before winter's over. Not necessarily a culvert, but some sort of winter camp. I'm definitely going to do it next year a few times. Now on the little stretch of road going down to the gate, you see how I'm having to brake it really slow? The deep snow is actually helping. This thing is not wanting to go as fast as it was back where it was packed down. The grooves in the bottom of the sled really help keep it straight. Also, our fox friend randomly decided to leave the road right here, off into the woods. Maybe decided to go catch up with that snowmobile trail, deciding it was easier to walk. Although, it's really not that bad. Despite there being 2 feet of snow, myself and the fox are only sinking about 5 inches because there's a hard, crusty layer underneath this. We made it back to the gate. This was one of the steepest hills to come back down. Back to the car. Look at this cute little mouse track. Or it could be something like a shrew. Something really small. I've been seeing these little tracks. Probably saw dozens of them on my way out of here. It's actually not that cold out now that the sun came out. Not a single other tire track on this road. I'm going to let the car defrost for a little bit while I pack everything in the back. Covered in snow. The mountains are so pretty today. That's Mount Washington right in front of us. I love when you can see where the snow stuck to all the trees up there because it was colder, and further down, it just didn't. Alright everyone, getting back on the highway. If you look up at Cannon Mountain, up at the very top, you see those clouds. That's all their snow guns going, creating new snowpack for the ski trails. I hope today's video was interesting, everyone. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Check it out, everyone. We are now going by Cannon Mountain. Isn't that awesome? Look up there at the ski slopes. They have so many snow guns going. It's making that gigantic cloud of vapor. They're making snow up there. It's pretty cold out. That's really cool. Hey everyone. Today we are here to remove this accumulating beaver dam. Eventually, the beaver dam will get worse and worse until it starts flooding across the road. We unclogged this last year, and we also came here in the middle of winter when this road was gated off. We walked up here like 2 miles to see it. So right now, you may say this is not a big pond at all. In the winter time, we found it maybe a foot deeper than this. Last summer, the first time we ever did it, this culvert was almost underwater. Yeah, almost underwater doesn't mean this road's under, right? Well, this road is a hill, so further down the road in that direction, it fills this drainage ditch, then it starts crossing. So that's the issue. This drainage ditch is meant to get the water down here to this culvert, but the beavers cause it to work in the opposite direction. Now you can see the scar of where it averages is. Yep. Now this right here is a mountain behind us, very rough terrain, so when it rains, this area actually gets sort of flash flooding. That doesn't really happen around here like it does out west, but sort of, meaning sometimes when there's a torrential downpour, it comes gushing here and it drags all kinds of sticks and crap with it, and it plugs it right up. But what we have today is definitely, that's gotta be beaver related. At least some of it. It may have been started by a flood, but it's reinforced by beavers 100%. That's kind of cute. Look at that little leak hole right there. See it? The pressure underneath the culvert is spraying out that little pinhole. Yeah, this culvert has a few little minor holes, but it's still got its structural integrity for at least another 5 years or so. So now across the road, if you remember when we were here the last couple occasions, this plunge pool was filled up. In fact, there was another beaver dam right there after it that we also removed because it was negatively affecting the culvert. Now this doesn't negatively affect the beavers. These are all secondary ponds and water reserves. Their real pond is downstream a couple 100 feet, and it's massive. Based on how there's not much water right now, it's been dry out. I wonder how big their pond really is, because this is flowing very little. So the beavers, they never plugged that up. When we were here last year, it was pouring over this log, and that built up an additional 18 inches of water headed back through that culvert. But now, this water was never here before. That flooding, they can have that, because that does not affect the culvert negatively. Now, this is all new. That wasn't flooded before. Further down, there's a much larger pond. So we're going to go ahead now and set up. We'll be able to unclog this thing like in a minute. Doesn't take much. So we're going to set up camera number 2 on the sandbar, and I expect when I get back, it's possible the tripod might be sitting in water. And the last guy to do this with an excavator, look at that big pile they put there. Camera 2 is going. This time I'm going to use a magnetic tripod and stick it inside the pipe so you guys can see what I'm doing. First, I'm gonna walk in here with it, then I'll walk back out. Got a few spiders. Get the webs out of the way. Make sure the spider's not crawling around. All right. So I'm gonna climb in here just to set the camera up on the ceiling. Just to give you guys a little bit different view this time. A magnetic tripod. Just trying to make it fit or go exactly the angle I want. The corrugation sometimes doesn't allow for a perfect angle, so I gotta try a few times. And there we go. So we're gonna start this now. For people who always ask, I do that noise in every video to align the cameras to make sure they're perfect. When I first started, I used to edit that out, but some people didn't believe it took so long for certain items to leave the other side. So that proves that they are aligned perfectly, and there are no cuts when I do this. At least not usually. Yes, it's Beaver. They add rocks. Looking good. You see there's a little bit of excavator damage there. Can't do anything about that. Yeah, that's too strong. This would have to be bent out again with heavy machinery. At least it's not that bad. This does help catch debris and make a clog faster naturally, but at least it doesn't reduce the capacity that much. I've seen those things so crumpled, like 90% of capacity's gone. Look, this area already drained back. And you see the water was up to here. Now that the water dropped, the sandbar is eroding. It'll be rebuilt when the beavers put this back. Since there are active beavers right down there, it definitely will be rebuilt at some point. Maybe not immediately, like some situations. Reason is, they have a big pond. There's a secondary. I've learned recently, because I've been putting a lot of cameras up for beavers, trying to get them on camera, working on these clogs. And I've only was successful 1 out of like 20 times. Because a lot of these smaller things I drain, they don't actually live in them. So they sometimes don't even check on them all the time. They might come up here every couple days, meaning at night it might not even happen. Like yesterday, I unclogged 2 days ago I unclogged a culvert, night 1, just to see if there was beavers around. I went ahead and unclogged it and I didn't do anything. I waited. There was another clog the next day. I unclogged it. This time I put a camera. Nothing ever happened. just proving they don't always check on it. And I know camera infrareds don't scare them, because I did work successfully one time, but maybe a different beaver behaves differently. But I am going to go ahead and put a magnetic trail camera upside down in the ceiling in this one. And because this is a pretty remote place, there's no reason for DOT to stop now and unclog this, since there's no blockage. And it's doubtful they'll even look inside, even if they did come to do a visual inspection. And I don't even know if they would care, because you'd have to be kind of a jerk to steal someone else's camera just trying to catch wildlife. So I'm not worried. I'm going to leave the camera out here probably even a week, see if anything happens. I'm going to have it on time-lapsing mode. I usually have it set so it makes a 15-second clip every minute, which usually results in around 500 videos a day. And then I can splice them all together into like a 2-hour video. Then I can time-lapse that and take out highlighted parts in real speed. Then I can time-lapse that into like a 30-second clip of time-lapse dam building. That's what I'm trying to do. I haven't been successful yet, but I'm going to give it another shot here. Thanks for watching, everybody. There we go. And change my mind. It's on motion sensing mode, because if a big beaver comes through here, it's definitely going to set it off, since there's not much water. Other times I've failed. They've built a dam in front of the camera, but yet it's never gone off. Because I think it's because they're under the water and the camera thinks it's not supposed to film ripples for whatever reason. So, in water, time lapse. Alright everybody, it's been about 24 hours. We're back at this beaver swamp to see if they started building anything. By the looks of it, they have not. But it did rain, and you can tell there's a lot more currents, so that may entice the beavers into getting out here and working. As you can see, there's no dam yet, but we will wait a week, maybe even longer, leave the camera out here. Alright everyone, this camera has been out here for a full week, and we are coming back. I can already tell nothing has happened. Wow, nothing's happened. This always happens. Beavers never show up when you actually put a camera for them. But this culvert's pretty smooth on each side. Maybe we at least got a beaver or a raccoon walking through it. I'm not sure, but we gotta pull this camera out today. I can't leave it in this area any longer. It's needed elsewhere. Watch. Now that I'm pulling it out, there'll be a dam here in the next visit. That's always how it works. But anyways, everybody, thanks for watching and have a great day.